Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Calling a special, are you ready and going?
Sure.
Calling the Town of Palmyra special board meeting to order. Sorry I didn't bring the gavel. Thursday, August 14th, 2025 at 6 p.m. the Palmyra Village Hall, 100 West Half Street, Palmyra, Wisconsin. Call to order. Certification of compliance with open meeting laws. The meeting has been properly posted. Roll call. Gajewski.
Here.
Martin's here. Sauter. Absent. Pledges, stand for pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we're official. Okay. Well, appreciate getting together again, everybody. It's been a while. Glad we worked this out, so we have back-to-back tonight and next Thursday. So hopefully we can make a lot of progress, because there's other business that both communities need to get to together and on our own, obviously. So we did receive the latest drafts from you, 717 and 724. As you said earlier, prior to the opening of the meeting, we are going to be using the 724 one.
Yes.
In the future, if you could send that back, please, as the red line version, so that we can continue to track what changes, what's been accepted and not. So I had to go back through this, because it wasn't a red line version. I had to go back through the whole thing to see what's different.
Lori sent you that stuff.
After I asked for it, yes, but I already done a lot of work on this one. So if we could just send a red line version, that's the purpose of the red line version, so you can track your changes, see what's been accepted, what hasn't. So that'd be awesome if you guys, if you could all just, on both sides, when we pass them back and forth, have it be the red line versions. So if you could, there are some things in here, sorry, I want to go back to the email where we got that. It said included or attached was the preliminary budget, or the budget numbers. It wasn't attached. Did you see it? So the email from Lori that she sent to Michelle, that Michelle forwarded to us, said attached is also the budget, but it wasn't attached.
When was that supposed to be sent? When was that sent?
Whatever date she sent it, 7:30 I think she sent it. Want me to find it? I'll find it. But whether she got it or not, it's August 14th today? 14th, you had said you'd have preliminary budget numbers to us by the end of July to begin with. So,
Well, if you didn't get it, why didn't, it doesn't really matter at this point, because it's,
well, if we didn't get it, I did respond, because Lori said that she couldn't answer some of my questions that maybe you could, so I responded and asked you to answer, if you could jump in and comment on my questions, and I never got a follow-up from you. So we did send it back and say, hey, this wasn't in there, could you send it to us?
well, I got a text from Paul at 4:53 this evening, and you probably know some of the numbers too here, Mike. Let's see, our budget proposal has fire EMS close to $1 million, so their share would be, town, would be around 400 to 420K with agreed upon calculation. So, there you go.
We need the numbers.
I just gave you numbers.
We need,
We're gonna have, you're gonna, at Monday's meeting, you guys are gonna give us more
Tim,
better
we
numbers.
need more
correct?
than a number, we need detail behind it.
I'm asking Mike a question, just hold your horses. On Monday, you guys have better numbers for.
We should have it by the end of the day tomorrow for sure.
Okay, so if you could, obviously give those to Lori and send them on to the town clerk, or have Lori do that, please. Okay, thank you. Is that sufficient
So
for you?
when will we have those? Well, what's sufficient is back when you said you'd have them to us, but when will you have
All I
them to
can
us?
tell you, sir, is that we will have them finish up our portion of what we're doing today, and we'll review it tomorrow morning, and by tomorrow afternoon, we should have
So
that.
your committee by the end of the day tomorrow, that we'll have the numbers.
Shouldn't be an issue. With confirmation from Paul in the morning. He's not here obviously today. He had a family emergency to attend to, but pretty confident by tomorrow afternoon they should be done or available.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking for the email, so if I'm pausing here, I'm looking for the email that you asked. When did we get that email that, where it said it would be attached? Just off the top of my head, $1 million budget.
I'm just reading what he was texted. I haven't seen any numbers myself.
So I can get you, I'm not gonna sit here and, hang on one second, this might be it. I can find it, I'll forward it to you. But let's just, unless you have any comments, Josh, at this point, then let's go through this, if that's good with you. Your latest version. There are some discrepancies for what we had gone through and you agreed to before. So we can just walk through this. First page, under definitions. We had talked about the very fire and emergency medical service. Means fire protection, rescue, operations, emergency medical, and paramedic services, water rescue, et cetera, et cetera. We both agreed that we would be better off saying instead of paramedic services, to add the word contracted. Contracted paramedic services or paramedic contracted services. Both parties had previously agreed to add that word in there. Because you don't have paramedic services here, they're contracted.
Agreed.
And they're mutual aid, what do you call it?
Paramedic
Intercept, yes. So whether we use contracted or intercept right there, we should add that word. And please know a lot of this stuff, as we've talked before, a lot of this stuff is put in here because if we're all not sitting at the table 1, 2, 3, 4 years from now, whatever, people understand exactly what it is that we have. So are you good with that?
Sure.
Would you rather have contract or intercept?
I wrote down contract.
Okay with that? 2, services provided. This is going to be maybe the biggest hang-up, but I was disappointed to see when we got your document back under fees that you still only have call volume and equalized volume in there. We had prior agreed to add population in there, and that's why,
We discussed. We discussed, we did not agree. We went through all 3 ways of figuring out
well,
percentages.
then we are on a separate page, but that's fine. We can discuss it tonight and agree to put it in there. But
The
that's
whole
fine.
purpose of having just equalized value and call volume is there is no qualms about this is equalized value, this is the call volume. Population is whatever it is. There is no way to verify.
There is a way.
There is no way to verify.
There is a way.
population.
We just received from the state or county the other night at our meeting an actual population for the town of Palmyra. And I'm sure the village has that as well. We even talked about this in a prior meeting. In fact, at our office or our town hall, we could go back and look at the tape. I'm pretty sure we talked about it.
We talked about it, but we did not agree upon it.
Let me finish. We talked about population specifically. And Penny went back and specifically drew up a new one with population numbers that we're perfectly fine with, because the town of 1242 is the number that we received last week from the county or the state. So we're okay with this, these new numbers. If Penny specifically did it because we had, all right, I'm gonna leave a little window open. It was my interpretation that we were 99% that agreed on adding population, and that's why she went through this exercise. But we certainly can, it is what it is. If we misunderstood, that's fine. But let's talk about it now. And, the town is adamant, I'm speaking for myself, please tell me if you agree or not. We are adamant that population be added in, and I've said that from our very first meeting. You agree with that?
I think we discussed the importance of it based on the fact that you could have an additional couple hundred dwelling units more within the original proposed term of the agreement, that you could add 25% of your population to the community within the period of the agreement, which is why we requested the population to be included as part of that factor. If the populations stay where they are, it is kind of a moot point, but if you end up with 200, 300, 400 more people in the village over the term of the agreement, it's kind of significant.
And it's not necessarily moot, because you have, I'm gonna use a rough number here, 30 to 35% more population than we have right now. And surrounding districts, to a large degree, use population in their contracts as well. So it's extremely important that we do, and one of the other things we had talked about, and I had thought we had agreed on, is that by adding population then, including these other things, we would be, instead of like the last 2-year, 3-year contract that we're currently under, and the long-term one before that, the numbers were static for the most part. But we had talked about, I thought we'd come to an agreement that these numbers would be reviewed every year and updated. So it wouldn't be whatever we're agreeing today as far as population, if we knew it changed, and call volume, as call volume changed, and as equalized value changed, every year, by a certain date, we would recalculate those and agree on what the numbers are, and that would be the new numbers plugged into the formula.
The
So-
population isn't enumerated every single year, whereas equalized value and call volume is.
It's estimated by Department of Administration.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different ways of figuring out
So
averages, whether it's mean, max,
So
all
we
kinds of
have to-
statistics. You can sit there and plug in all kinds of numbers in.
all we have to do is agree on the metric, and then we use that, whether it's the states or the counties, whatever metric that publishes it annually. We just agree on what we're gonna use, and we go forward using that one every year, so it's fair for everybody. I don't see adding population, as I've stated many times in our meetings, I don't see adding population to the formula as unfair to anybody. I think it's the most fair for all parties. Mike, did you want to say something?
Sir, if I remember correctly, at that meeting, we were referring to Penny providing some formulas. There was 3 that were provided at that period of time, and in all 3 of those, they're relatively close.
And then she sent out.
Number-wise,
Yes,
so.
well, relatively close. I mean, one goes from 47.5%. This is the latest one, the one she sent after that meeting.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily agree relatively close. It's with just call volume and equalized volume, it's 50.9%. With equalized value and population, it's 54.4. And with call volume, valuation, and population, it's 47.5. So the 3 variables go from 47.5 to 54.4. 7% is a big swing between the 3. Even from the way it is today, call volume and equalized volume, that's a 3.4% swing. So those are fairly substantial and important. It makes a big
I
difference.
just remember she provided 3, and I had thought at the time,
And
we didn't
absolutely.
decide on
And
what.
then she came back with the latest one as of
Okay.
July 11th.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So,
And in all fairness, I mean, last time we updated this stuff, I presented to my board, and nobody said anything to change anything, so. I mean, I can bring it back to them again and say, hey, do you want to add this or not?
Did you take it to them that the town specifically requested we add this?
I asked for input from my board, and I did not get any response in regards to any type of changes.
But did you let them know that in the negotiation, the town is specifically asking for population to be added to the formula?
No, I did not, but everybody should be aware of our negotiations here, so
How would they be aware if you didn't bring it up to the rest of the board?
I've let people know. You know,
Okay.
like I can ask if they say, no, this is the way it's worked fine for the last umpteen years, if that's what they want to do, then that's what they want to do. Majority rules.
For the village?
Well, majority rules for the town too.
No. Well, yes, but if we, semantics, yes. You're talking about with the village, so.
But I can ask, but I did bring it up to the legal counsel, and frankly, he just said, well, your population goes up during the summer, all the vacation months. How do you quantify those?
That's not population. Population is resident, full-time residents.
Yeah, but there's still, you might still end up having services to those people that come in during their time.
I mean, we can argue the fact that the additional equalized value that we have is a partial result of those two. So without those homes and without those residents, then our portion would still go down. I mean, we can argue about how.
I'm just telling you what he said.
No,
So,
I,
you know, so like if he says no, then, well, I'm gonna go along with what he says.
Who's he?
Stan,
stand
Stan Riffle.
Well,
I mean, if you guys are then looking for a formal adjustment, there's, what, 213 houses out there, call it an average of 2 people per home, so you'd be looking at an adjusted average of 406 to our population. If that's a request you want to make of us, same type of thing. I mean, this is part of what this all comes down to, is the nits and grits. The last 10% is 90% of the work, and that's kind of where we're at. So if there, I mean, if your board feels as though a seasonal influence of population is a big enough deal, then make the formal request as part of our calculation. But that is way more of a dart at the wall than using the Department of Administration's population estimate. I mean, we would be guessing at how many people are in each home at any given point in time and what the seasonality of each one of the occupancies of those homes are.
And that's, as I stated in the previous meeting, it's like the whole point of having actual undebatable numbers is fairness to town taxpayers and village taxpayers. And a population, like I said, depending on who does the statistics, they can be all over the place.
As long as we agree on what the population is, that's not an issue. And the county or state, I still don't remember, we'd have to check, but just published it and sent it to us, has a population, and that's what Penny used right here. And the village also has seasonal. You have some lake people down on the Spring Lake that are probably seasonal. I know several people that are seasonal in the village of Palmyra that go to Florida or Arizona. So, and it may not be to the numbers at Blue Spring Lake, but there are those people in the village as well.
Yeah.
So, I guess I don't understand, I guess I don't understand where we changed. And it's fine if you say we never agreed to it, but there was never anything in the discussion we had that indicated you weren't going to. Every time we talked about it, we came up with new numbers, we presented the numbers, we reviewed them. And, so, anyway, we'll go back and we'll probably have a special town meeting to discuss the outcome of this meeting. And we'll come back next week. I'm fairly confident that that's going to be a huge sticking point for us. But I could be outvoted 2-1, but I don't think that'll be the case. So this is, and I think I've been very clear from the very beginning. And fact, the very first meeting we had, I specifically asked each other, or we said, well, okay, what things do you want to see changed in the contract? And the one thing specifically I said is that we need to have population added.
I didn't see that until we were putting up copies 5 months after the fact, so.
5 months after what fact?
Beginning of the year, when
Let's
we first
just
started
move on.
talking about this stuff.
We started 5 months, 5 months later, because we tried to start in November, or December. And then we had several meetings that weren't even attended by the village. So, I mean, the red line, I'm just gonna skip that comment, because I don't agree with that at all.
Okay, well, let's move on, we've beat this one off enough.
We have to beat it enough to make it clear where we stand.
Okay, you've made your point, let's move on. What's your next contention? What else you have, what's your next question?
Well, we'll come back to you, because we'll talk about it in our, when we meet as a town. I'm moving on, Tim,
Okay, let's
Talking
move
about
on to the next,
one.
let's move on to the next subject. What else do you want to talk about this
I'm already
evening?
talking about it.
No, you haven't.
I talk.
Come on, let's go.
So
I don't know if
we
there's any-
we do have the ability to, I mean, there's no, let's say there's no secret or leverage at this point in the population portion of this. So as this is a town meeting, you and I, because we are a quorum and we are the majority, could make a motion tonight, so that potentially when we come back at the next meeting, gives the village time to discuss amongst themselves if they have a meeting scheduled, or if it's part of the next discussion, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, go ahead.
Regarding section 3 of the lease titled fees, I would move that the town board formally request the village of Palmyra to include population as the third leg of the metric, using the Wisconsin Department of Administration's Demographic Services Center population estimates published as of January 1st for the following year's service. The example would be, is they just published the estimated population for the town of Palmyra as of 1/1/25. That number would be utilized for the cost of service in 2026. January 1st of 2026, when the estimate comes out, that number would be used for the cost as part of the cost of service calculation for 27, and so on and so forth.
I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Josh. Okay, liability and identification, indemnification. C, it talks about general liability, and a lot of that is in relation, there's a couple things in here that are in relation to the jointly owned vehicles. I've not had a chance, and we will make sure that's on our agenda for the special meeting we're gonna have hopefully have prior to next week's meeting. We'll talk about those vehicles as well as, our ownership of it, because I think, Mike, one of the questions you had in one of our meetings was, how are we gonna handle the joint ownership of the vehicles going forward? We still have to discuss that one, so we'll do that prior to next week's meeting. Term and termination. You've got 2 years in here, and that's what we originally talked about, so that's fine. Although we did bring up at our last meeting, and we still would like to keep that as a potential option of having a 1-year contract. And then going through this while we jointly work both to see where the development goes over the next year. And we would also like to talk to you about jointly going to, because back in December, January, when we held, I think was it January, we held our joint meeting? We agreed, both boards agreed to work together for the long-term sustainability of the fire and EMS, to work together to, not that we would do anything, but go out and see what our options were with other districts. And we would like, so we want to keep open the option to discuss potentially having a one-year extension or one-year contract, and over the next year, have a resolution where both parties formally agree to jointly go to other districts to see what the cost benefit would be, if any, and to bring it back and make a decision what's best long-term for the community of Palmyra, both the town and the village, working together. And if that's not the right way to go, so be it. But we did, in January, in our joint meeting, both formally agreed to do that. So,
Well, that being said, legal counsel said 1 year is definitely not an option. 2 years, or 2 years is okay, 3 years is better. Only because, and I'm kind of pointing my finger at the fire department, they need to know what they can do for planning, for staffing, training. If they only know that there's gonna be a 1 year commitment between the town and the village, you know, I mean, that might kind of hit a little bit on morale, might get a hit on trying to get people in the door for staffing. So 2 years definitely needs to stay.
well, and that's fine, we can continue to talk about that. Everything's a negotiation, right? So I'm throwing it out there right now, it's in here as two, that's what we've been talking about, so that's fine. But much like you're saying that we haven't agreed on the population being part of the formula, we're saying we're not entirely on board yet with the 2 years. So we'll talk about that again coming up this next week, and prepared to talk about that one at the next meeting as well.
Okay, I'm just,
Yeah, I don't think that that's fair to our staff, and not even that, us for trying to plan out what we're gonna do. Because if we fully staff our department here and get more people in to help out with the town, and then you guys leave, now we gotta try to figure out what we're gonna do.
Nobody says we'd leave, it's going back to what we agreed to, and I understand what you're saying, but it's also potentially unfair to the town. All of a sudden, we have $1 million budget, and our number goes up significantly. We've got to plan for that as well. We have to figure out how we pay for that. So, you know, so what we're saying is, all I'm saying is, we're gonna meet, we'll come back, we may decide 2 years is fine. But we're not committing to that today.
Okay,
Fair?
because I don't think we can go any lower than 2 years.
So do you have your staffing plan approved by the village board of police and fire commission?
We are working on it.
Okay,
It's about there.
okay.
So, and that's the other thing is, we need to figure out what we're doing. Either we're hiring more, there's hiring freeze, what we're doing. And if we don't know what's gonna be in the next year or 2 years, that isn't helpful for us planning by employee and then also budget. And as you know, budgets are tight between you guys and us and everything else like that. I think every municipality is going through that right now. So going any lower than 2 years, it can't happen.
So, just using some rough hotshot numbers at this point, if you've got a $700,000 budget for 2025 and you're looking for $1 million budget next year, that either to me says you have capital purchases you're planning on paying next year for something that hasn't been purchased yet, or you're increasing your staffing density to either. I mean, the fact that when we met in July and that you had been running 3 people and you were at about 60% of that budget, I'm just gonna use a guess that you're planning on staffing with 4 people for 2026. Is that?
Well, our plan going forward is currently 3. With
Okay.
the numbers that we came up with today and we'll present to you guys tomorrow. 4 would be our ideal plan, but we're realists and know that budgets are tight and probably is not gonna happen. That's not included in what we're going forward with. Capital expenses, in my belief, is a separate village cost. I don't believe it's included in any of this.
no, it's not. And we took that out as far as the ambulance, where the town would help pay for the monthly loan. took that part out if you hadn't noticed.
So, well, I don't know that it was ever in there
Well, it was-
as language that we received as
It was one of the things that was a talking point for a while that the
Correct.
previous director was really pushing for, right? And, but I mean, we still kept in the, with the co-ownership of the certain vehicles, that's when it comes into where, well, you had a picture of an axle coming off of a fire truck. That would be like, okay, if it's jointly owned, bill comes, you guys pay half, we pay half, and that's above and beyond the budget. Because that's a catastrophic.
Right.
There's a catastrophic clause for, let's say, like the egg farm fire, where we had to keep having staff go out there for days on end. The jointly owned vehicles, that's farther down, that's not under section 8.
But jointly owned vehicles is different than contributed capital. Jointly owned vehicles would be the ones that the town originally helped purchase.
Yes.
Joint capital is the venture together where we don't have fee title to it. We are contributing for the operation and use of that vehicle during the term of the agreement. Those are generally two separate.
Yeah, all I was worried about, all I was had in here was for if, a pump goes out, it's on the water truck.
But that language wasn't drafted and included in the, whatever it is, 724 version.
Jointly owned vehicles, it's under section 8.
Jointly owned vehicles, but not the capital portion.
Well, I haven't seen any type of wording from any,
Okay,
So not on this end,
that's
so not on
what
this
I'm asking.
I
is so
don't
that-
recall hearing anything about that. I mean, if you had something that was, if you were asked, just like you were asking for wording for something, if that's something that you're interested in doing, then I want to see some wording.
We don't want any capital in there.
It was a village, I think it was a former public safety director, I'll call it, aired out recommendation or potential consideration was because of the capital costs that it should be included. I'm trying to clarify that the village hasn't drafted language to include in the agreement regarding that, correct?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
This is what
It does talk about one half of the cost of repairs.
That's
Of the
right.
jointly owned
Right.
vehicles,
Right.
completely separate thing.
Yeah,
It's a truck and an ambulance that exists right now, not the one that was potentially
Oh,
proposed to be
yeah,
purchased. in the future.
absolutely.
Okay.
It's an
Absolutely.
ambulance, fire truck, and brush truck.
Absolutely.
yeah. So,
It's like,
yeah, there was the sheet that we gave, because right now, the village and town own, jointly own the 1929 fire truck, the 2006 Ford ambulance, the 2007 tender, and the 2007 utility truck. So 4 vehicles.
And 3 of them are still in service or just 2?
3, no, there's,
Well, the
29.
1929 isn't
It's
in
not,
service.
the other 3 are still in
yeah.
service and used, okay.
yes.
So we're gonna review liability number 4C. And that'll be something we talk about next week as well. We're on termination. We'll have that, our discussion, and give you our position, confirmed, voted on position to talk about next week.
Can I just go back to that for a second, because we got a little bit sidetracked about capital, but understanding you guys, like, I'll give you my shoe if you need to wear it for a minute, but to go from essentially $260-some thousand a year to the potential of almost doubling that in a 3-month turnaround, our planning is the same as your planning. Your staff costs are our staff costs. So my question about whether or not you have, even for the duration of 2025, a staffing plan of what that cost is, or potentially a staffing plan for 2026 that's been approved. Having a plan and having the village buy into and approve that plan are 2 completely separate things. And I would imagine if are they full-time wage and benefited employees?
6 of the people are full-time with wages and benefits, yes.
And I'm sorry, the third,
The third is not
it would be a part-time.
part-time. Currently, up till today, This year, our third person has been from 7 in the morning till 7 at night.
Okay,
We wanna continue that as a 24-hour position,
gotcha.
so that we have 3 people here on a regular basis instead of just 2.
So I understand the standpoint of needing to plan staff around the town's level of service. And at the same point, I've reviewed enough of the fire and EMS calls to know that it is more of a decision of what level of staffing you want to provide rather than a requirement of the number of calls that you run. You don't have the volume where you're tipping between having 2 ambulance service needs because of the volume of calls. If we're somewhere between 13 and 25 calls a month combined between the 2 communities, that level of service, I don't wanna say is minimal, because it's not minimal, but that level of service is essentially, Mike's not proposing to have 2 different engine companies and 2 different ambulance companies turned out from this fire department as a result of the additional service area that's provided to the town. So, from a staffing plan, whether we're part of that district, part of the joint agreement or not, there is still a minimal threshold of service that the village needs to provide, and you can argue 1 person, 2 people.
I know you could argue that to death, because I, quite frankly, to respond to any call with whether it's the town or the village, need more than 4 people to respond. I need to go to this town specifically, I would need an engine and a tanker because you guys don't have water.
Right.
So, quite frankly, we need more people to respond to any town call for fire response. Same for EMS, we need a minimum of 2, which we have currently. But, like I said, we're realists and we know that there's not a lot of money out there, so we do the best with what we can. So, we truly do need more to respond to the town if it's indeed a fire event. So, but we're not planning for that. We're planning
My
for
point
3.
is that those would be funded by mutual aid, if you wanna call it that, or by some other mechanism, not part of your routine on-the-clock scheduled staffing plan. So all of this is obviously number specific, but it is also, again, like I said at our meeting a month or whatever ago, that the level of service is something that folks wanna know about. What is the level of service that we're providing? They may think it's too much, they may think it's too little, but all of those things are part of the decision-making, which does go back to the term and termination part of this whole thing. Because, in 6 months' time, we haven't made a whole hell of a lot of progress, to be quite frank. I mean, we're still nitpicking over things that, do they have a net effect? Probably. Is it significant to the overall scope of what this service agreement is? Not really. Whether we have to pay if the fenders fall off of the 1929 fire truck or not, it's an insignificant amount of money compared to $420,000 a year. So, all of these things are, at least I was the one who suggested, would you be open to a 1-year service contract? And those are the reasons why. I completely understand that it causes a problem from your planning standpoint, but at this point, you don't have a plan, and it's 3 months from the beginning of the year. So, I don't know that an additional 15 months from now is less time than what we have right now for a level of service in 2026. Sorry.
I would probably also say, and don't get me wrong, I understand knowing what we're doing is important to your budget and your plan, I get it. But I would also say your new development there is gonna be equally important to your planning and how fast that's gonna be developed. And the more population you have out there is gonna impact your budget and your planning as well, so they would go hand in hand. Mike, do you consider 3 per shift full-time, or is that, or fully full employment, fully
There'll
staffed?
be 3 people on shift at all times. 2 of them will be full-time, 1 will be part-time. Is that
I
what you're asking?
I phrased it wrong. At one point, the village had come back to us and said, here's our list of staff, we're now fully staffed. Was that fully staffed based on 4 per shift, or 3 per shift, or 2 per shift? Are you fully staffed at 3, I guess my question is?
We are fully staffed at 3.
All right. Okay. Dry hydrants, no issues there. I think it's actually the same language we've had in our contract in the past.
I do have I have a curious question, because when this was originally drafted, I think both, if not at least one, but I think both of the dry hydrants that the town owned, one at Blue Spring and one out on 59, didn't actually work. So the language in here says the village should conduct an annual test of the dry hydrants in the town, providing that, number 1, the hydrants are owned by the town or the owners have an agreement with the town for their use. Number 2, they're permitted by the DNR, because that I know was a question at some point in time of whether or not they were even supposed to be there. And the 3rd is the hydrants are functioning properly. So I know that we verified that the hydrants are permitted, and I know that at least as of sometime 6 months ago, that both of those dry hydrants worked. So is that language necessary to include in the dry hydrant section, seeing as we've kind of worked through what the issues were when this was drafted in 22?
I suppose it wouldn't hurt just to keep it in there, just as a quick nudge to remind us that we have to make sure that they're working proper. That's probably the biggest thing. I mean, if the DNR, they have to be permitted through DNR, we've got those. Well, do those expire permits, or are they permanent?
Once unless they're changed, whatever, you know,
Because
from
I mean,
a,
right now, it's pretty much just a pipe in the ground that just sucks the water out, or?
Let me clarify, are you
So
suggesting the whole
No.
thing be scratched, or just one
no,
or 2
like
of the
that,
bullet points?
the part up to the end of the sentence with number 3, where it says the hydrant's functioning properly. And then it goes on to say, once the conditions are met and the documentation is provided to the village, the annual testing will be done by the village fire department. So to me, that last sentence would make sense to stay in there from a let's go test them and make sure they work standpoint. But I'm wondering if we need the first, call it 3 portions at all, and above and beyond that, I think it would be useful to clarify, again, for someday when we're not sitting here, if we were to take the first half of that paragraph off, leave the end of it, make that the beginning of the paragraph, and itemize the fact that those dry hydrants are the responsibility of the town to own and maintain in working order, to me would make more sense to include something like that, now that we know that they're good, that now it's an in perpetuity maintenance and ownership type of thing. You guys would be providing the does it work or does it not part.
I would agree. I think you guys own them and maintain them, we test them. However you want
Yeah.
the one's brand
Want to
new.
reword it, or I passed your legal counsel, make sure it's fine.
So what part of you?
So I'm looking at an old version, on paper, but
They're the same.
where the first technical sentence ends with hydrants are functioning properly after sub 3. Under section 6, you go 1, 2, 3 lines down. It says and sub 3,
Right.
hydrants are functioning properly. My suggestion would be is that we strike from that point back to the beginning, take that out, and start the paragraph with the village fire department will conduct the annual testing, and any maintenance, any ownership and maintenance related issues are the responsibility of the town, something to that effect. Because it doesn't really say what happens after once they're working, once we know who owns them, once they're working and once there's a permit for it, it says the village is gonna test them. It doesn't say after you test them, if it's broke, then what happens?
Well, let me suggest this. I'm gonna read here, following the first part of the first sentence. The village shall conduct an annual test of dry hydrants in the town. Put a line there after town. Scratch everything down to the fourth line, provided to the village, after village put a line, so that it now reads, the village shall conduct an annual test of dry hydrants in the town with the annual testing to be done by the village fire department. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then
And if,
we can add something
and
in
if
there
found that
about,
they're not working, then the town is responsible for the maintenance.
So, we'll,
You reword that whatever way you want to.
wordsmith something together.
Reports, I think these are pretty much the same language as the prior contract, and I'm fine with that, A, B, and C. Josh?
For reports under A, it says upon request, the village shall provide the town with the current list of all vehicles maintained by the village for the provision of fire and EMS service. Can we just make that an annually thing, and instead of having to ask annually? I mean, it's gonna be, whether you do it as part of your insurance renewal, you know, obviously annually you renew your insurance and your vehicle insurance, and whatever is that list, that's the list.
Okay.
And here's my other, under C, it says the village will provide annually a list of names of fire and EMS employees. My own personal professional opinion is I don't care if Bob, Sue, Mary, and Joe are the people that are here. I wanna know what positions you have and how many of them. That to me is way more useful than having a list of EMS employees by name. Like, it doesn't,
I mean, what do we
Well,
give right now?
Right.
Is that-
I don't know that there is,
Cause I
that's,
thought we had a list and it was like, had some of their certifications behind them or something?
I mean, it's a public document, and I think if the people in the community, I mean, some of this is about relationships too, getting to know people,
Well,
if our constituents, because it's a public document, if they wanna know who are our fire people, who are our police department, I don't think it hurts to continue to get that.
We could provide you a copy of our organizational chart, is that what you're looking for?
I mean, the org chart doesn't mean that it's filled. Right?
We could,
You
I
could,
hope to God it is.
well, I'm just saying, from the
Well,
standpoint
okay,
of,
maybe there's the list you send us, or you've
Yeah.
given us recently.
Yep,
That's got the names on it.
Let's say it has 15 names on it, I'm just picking a figure. If it has 15 names on it, you know, and I think you have, if I remember correctly, you have the name and the position,
Mhm.
right?
yep,
So if you're down 2 people, you don't just send us a list of 13, the current 13, you'd send us the same list of 15 with 2 being to be determined or open or whatever, where it would show us where the staffing level is. But that's a point in time thing too.
correct.
Yeah, so we don't wanna do that every single time we hire somebody and
No,
and do that. I mean, when you're talking about like the monthly activity reports, call things, that's, definitely,
Operation.
that's an operation, but like with the people, it's like, well, depending on certain people who've sat on here before, it's like, sometimes it's just names, some people, they have, like I said, the listing of their certifications, like, are they, are they EMS, are they firefighters, or, all that kind of fun stuff. I don't know if, are you just looking at kind of
I
like.
guess it wouldn't be that difficult to generate a report of what you're looking for, we have it all, it's all.
yeah, I mean, kind of to Rob's
Just
point
have
of
to
it,
figure out what
you
you're
know,
looking for.
the whole idea or concept of fully staffed, right? To me, knowing the number of positions that you either have or that you're looking to have, and whether or not those positions are either filled or vacant, to me, that's a more useful thing than having because this literally just, you may include more on your own, but this literally just says provide a list of names of fire and EMS employees. Quite frankly, I don't know if Jim, Sam, Joe, and Sue are EMTs or they're firefighters or they mop the floor. I don't. To me, the position
Well, let's add
staffing would be more.
a
useful.
list of names and positions. Let's add and positions to the
See, and
language.
to Josh's point, I don't know, even if, we have numerous part-time people, that fill the position guess I'm not exactly sure how you would want us to present that to you, showing that your determination of fully staffed might be different than what I think it might be. You know, if I have 20 part-time people that fulfill my fully staffed concept, if you see 20 people, you're like, holy cow, I have way more than, and need to be
What you
fully
need,
staffed,
yeah.
but I take all those part-time people and fill in all the holes that we need on a daily basis to make sure that we are fully staffed, so.
Well, I suppose if you do this, it's either you put
I mean,
part-time
we'll-
behind them, or if you have your, like in your organizational chart,
We'll come back.
you have that under like EMS part-time, that type of thing, is that, would
Yeah, I
that
don't
be
know.
sufficient?
Where I was thinking.
We can,
No, I was just saying, like under the organizational chart, like if he's got so many part-timers, he'd be like, okay, EMS part-time, so that's the way if you're looking at.
Say that again, sorry?
So somebody, if they're looking
Yeah.
at it, they're not like, oh yeah, you got 30 people, but we only really have, full-time staff, I'm just gonna
Right.
throw a number out there, say, we have 30, but we have 20 full-time positions, but we have 30 people filling. So if you have, let's say, part-time behind somebody's name under EMS or firefighter,
yeah,
is that,
we can talk about
I mean.
presentation, request, whatever you wanna call it,
Yeah.
and get back to you. I was just curious.
We'll
like-
talk about it in this meeting we're gonna have. We'll come back and say, hey, here's what we'd really like to see, can you provide it?
Sure.
Jointly owned vehicles. We've already discussed, we're gonna talk about this one, be ready next time to talk about it.
Okay.
Anything on this one you wanna talk tonight about, Josh?
Well. So. In the July, whatever draft this is, under A, it says all jointly owned vehicles will remain titled in the name of both the town and the village. The village will retain the sole discretion on the use and or ongoing ownership or sale of these vehicles. If jointly owned vehicles are sold, the funds will be divided in return equally to each municipality.
And this is something I wanted us to talk about as well.
Quite honestly, I know that the 1929 truck holds a certain bit of homage to a whole bunch of people in this community. I don't know that the 2006 ambulance has that same kind of cool factor. I 100% understand that if you're operating that department, you pick and choose whether or not it gets used or whether it doesn't get used. At the same point, I completely understand whether or not you think that it's the most useful piece of equipment for you to use or you not to use. Specific to the 29, and I don't know that it entirely matters, but adding a town's first right of refusal type of language to it, to me, makes sense that if the town wants to buy the 29 because you need space in the basement, we can figure out if we've got enough money to buy your half, and if we don't, then it goes down the road. That type of a scenario. Or anything else at some other point in time. To me, it cuts out, I know even 2 or 3 years ago, there was a lot of back and forth about the antique fire truck and what was gonna happen to it. The village could sell it and just give us $1,500 and say, see you tomorrow. To me, that would safeguard the investment, if you wanna call it that, in that equipment, that if you guys wanna sell it, you write us a letter and say, hey, we wanna sell this truck. If you wanna buy, you know, like.
I think it has definite value to put something like that in there, cause I can tell you right now, we have no desire to get rid of it anywhere. It'll be on display Saturday if anyone wants to come by and take a picture with it. But like you said earlier, we may not be here someday, and I think that if you had something like that in there, to protect people that still love it and cherish it, that
Well, I mean,
at
even
least
like,
they'd have the right to say, no, we're gonna try and buy that before we try and get rid of it. I would totally agree.
even like the brush truck, that to me is the only other mildly town useful piece of equipment crossover. If the plow truck out at the airport dies, or there is a need for another one, and you guys are gonna get rid of that because you wanna get a different brush truck, you know, those two, the ambulance, I don't know what we would do with the fire truck. or where we would put it, but a pickup and the old antique to me were two, so.
Then with the 29, I think what, I don't know if Penny was joking, but it's like, it's worth 10 cents. Book value.
Well, Blue Book and Classic Car Trader are two different,
I
two different
understand. I'm just saying
platforms.
But it's still on the insurance policy that we gotta, we're paying for. It's just like, well,
Correct.
it's one of those things like, do we want to, I don't know how much it costs to keep liability on it or whatever, that's a Lori question. But
Sure.
I know the previous president was very adamant about not doing anything with that as far as, for the sake, to me, this is just me personally, I appreciate history more than a lot of my family, but it's just kind of like, if, my personal concern would be is like, okay, first concern is having him and his staff provide services. If that thing is taking up space in our fire hall, I would have no problem saying, you know what, you're right, we'll sign it over to you, and then if you know somebody that's into classic cars and wants to try and do something with it, and then end up being able to get into parades or have it over at the Historical Society, if they have room, it just,
Yeah.
my biggest concern, for the most part, is the vehicles that we actively jointly own as far as maintenance and whatnot. And if, you guys talk about it as far as like, hey, same thing, you just say, you did that, you sign this over, then a lot of this joint stuff goes away, and then that's less cost for you. And it's obviously more on us, but it's, just brain farting.
Okay.
So, but yeah,
All right.
but I'm only one of 7 to say that, so.
So we'll put in the right of first refusal and bring it back in our red line, and
Yeah.
you guys the board can
Talk
take a
about
look at it. Other than that, I do want to talk about, in total, this whole section with the guys on the town in our upcoming meeting. 9, catastrophic events. This is a new clause that we haven't talked about yet internally, so number 9, catastrophic events.
Okay.
We'll talk about this one and come back.
Okay.
And
That was
there's-
that was a wording that I left that up to Stan, because he had
Yeah,
all kinds of different
makes sense. Right.
district that he's dealt with to throw it in there.
We just haven't had it's new, so we haven't had a meeting to specifically talk about the
Yeah.
contract yet, so just
Okay.
want to review. I know parts of this kind of fall under the force majeure. So, one thing I want to look at, especially with our, is there redundancy in some of this? There may not be, because it may be specific to this, but I just want to make sure. Fire dues, this is a new one.
Yes.
This is not a smart aleck question. No, it's curious. This wasn't in there before. Why is it important
I
within 50
can address that, sir.
Okay.
So, when we do fire prevention inspections and stuff for the town, the village, you guys, there's a state statute that says you get a certain amount of money once you pass your self-evaluation, I guess I'll call it. When we receive that money, we as a department, per state statute, have to account for what money we spend with that money that is received by the town and the village. So we need to be notified what the village receives, because that's a line item that we have to spend specifically that money on.
Okay.
And
I understand that, correct me if I'm wrong, that the village uses, or the town uses it to pay their contract fees. We just need to know how much that you receive, so that we can account for it, so when we get audited, we can say, well, we spent, okay, if we say we had $8,000 from the village, but we still have another $8,000 outstanding from the town, they're gonna wanna know, well, what did you spend that on? If we don't know how much it is,
yeah, we could get.
we're kinda left out there
So
going, well,
it's
okay,
more of-
so we
it's
just
more
need
of
to be notified the dollar
Didn't
amount.
necessarily have a problem with, just curious.
Yeah,
Anything that's
it's
new,
kind of,
yeah.
we give reports to you, this would be the same thing, so that way I can say.
And it would be as simple as Michelle calling over and say, this is what we received this year,
Yeah, so I think, yeah.
notifying Lori.
Can we change it to 30 days instead of 15?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep, no problem.
amendments and additional provisions are all the same as the current contract. I have no issues with any of those. Josh, anything?
Sorry.
I think they're identical to the current contract, are they not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Stan just renumbered them.
Sure.
So when we're
Couple
covering
names were added in.
correctly, and he fixed those.
Yes, I'm not sure where this